My people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk. People, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk. People.
Do you need graphic design services? Or maybe you need branding for your business? How about multimedia production services? Contact Browns Media and Graphics at 876-877-1870. Browns Media and Graphics, developing your ideas, creating your style.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Make We Talk program. This evening, I have the distinguished honor to introduce to you a Jamaican who minces no word when she's speaking in the Senate. She speaks for the Jamaican people. Senator Donna Motley. She is also the opposition leader of the business. Sorry,
I'm the deputy leader of opposition business in the Senate.
Yes, thank you very much.
And I'm spokesperson for justice.
Yes, opposition spokesperson for justice. I got that one. Senator Motley, can you tell us?
Please could you call me Donna?
Okay, Donna, thank you. I will do that. Donna, can you tell us what is a constitution and why are we changing into a republic? Because a lot of Jamaicans are saying to us right now, why are we doing it? Aren't we independent? Is there something wrong with our independence? Why we decided to go republic?
Well, the Constitution is the supreme law of the country, and it provides the framework for governance. So yes, we became independent in 1962, and our Constitution actually originated in the United Kingdom in the sense that the Queen had to sign to it. It's really an act of the British Parliament, not of us. And part of what we want to do now is that we want to what we call repatriate the Constitution, which means that we as an independent country, we feel that it is time that we have a constitution which is designed by our parliament and which is acceded to by our people. And the reason why I say acceded to, Jeffrey, is because you cannot change this constitution, the fundamental aspects of it, unless the people agree. So at this time, we are actually trying to decolonize. We're trying to move away from being a monarchy,
yes,
where our leader, our head of state, sits in a foreign country. We don't know him, he doesn't know us. And where we don't get to choose. It is a matter of who next, Prince William, Prince George, and so on. It's decided by kinship. So we want a head of state that the people of this country will choose.
And before I let Lloyd ask his question, is the head of state going to be an elected president or an appointed president, a ceremonial president? Because a lot of Jamaicans are saying they prefer to vote for their president and to vote for their senators.
Yes, and I'm very intrigued by that. In fact, the level of engagement that I'm seeing really fascinates and delights me. Let me tell you, the framework within which we are operating is that of a 1995 Joint Select Committee recommendations. And I must tell you, Jeffrey, that we have been talking about constitutional reform from in the 1970s. Indeed, from the moment we became independent, we have been speaking about having a constitution that reflects us as Jamaicans. So in 1977, Michael Manley actually set up a constitutional reform division in the Ministry of Justice. And since then, every single prime minister has spoken about it and indeed has had consultations around it. I will tell you that I became interested in politics when, as a young girl, I went on the constitutional reform program, going around all the churches and the town halls and the schoolroom and hearing what people had to say. And it was just so fascinating to me how Jamaicans were reacting and how people who we describe as illiterate were so in sync with what they wanted and
Yes.
how they wanted to be governed. So that is what actually attracted me to politics. Now, 1977 is a long time ago, and we are still having that same conversation. And that is what bothers me about it. Why is it that Jamaica has had this problem? Trinidad became independent in 1962. It became a republic in 1976. There are other countries in the Caribbean who have become republics, but Jamaica seems to have almost a resistance to it.
So, Senator, is it that the new constitution, is it that everybody, every single Jamaican will have a say in how we draft this new constitution? Or is it that the powers may be will just forget that a Jeffrey Tavares, Wilfred Rattigan, a Lloyd Diagla, or Jamaicans just don't want to listen to us?
Well, at the outset, as I said, because we were guided by the 1995 Joint Select Report and the recommendations, it was almost accepted. It was almost a given that we would replace the Governor General with a president who had the non-executive functions. In other words, we really would be removing the Governor General and ushering somebody who would be appointed by our parliament, but it had the same functions. The Jamaican people don't seem to be willing to accept that. Because if I'm to tell you what has been the greatest feedback which we have had is, I want to vote for my president. I want to elect my president. Now, I am somebody who feels that when the people speak, you must stop, listen, and reflect. And at the minimum, you need to explain to the people why it is that you're positing this idea to them to see if they can accept it, and if they reject it, there is no point in proceeding. You see, Jeffrey, how our constitution is drafted now, how it is framed, there are what we call deeply entrenched clauses. And this is a deeply entrenched clause. And by that I mean that 2/3 of the people voting on this matter in a referendum get to choose. So if the people say, no, we don't want to leave the monarchy, we can't. And if the people say, yes, we want to leave, that's when we do it. It is the voice of the people has to be heard in this deliberation, has to be heard. That is what a referendum is.
Sorry, Lloyd. Thank you, Senator. Sorry, Lloyd.
Yes. Well, I don't see any major constitutional change being proposed in this move from being a monarchy to a constitutional republic. Nobody's talking about what the constitutional changes should be. There's no such discussion. The only thing that is going on is that whether the president shall be elected or whether he shall be appointed. I hear a discussion going on between the leader of the opposition and the government about that. That is a non-issue as far as I'm concerned, because my main concern is that significant constitutional changes are required. And that is not part of this changing from a monarchy to a republic. There's no such discussion that is going on. The opposition is not proposing any meaningful changes to the Constitution which reflects the human rights of the people. Neither is the government making any such proposal. It is all about how do we agree on becoming a republic, and whether it is going to be executive president or a ceremonial president. That is all. So that, to me, is going nowhere. What we need to do is to have a discussion about some of the deficiencies in the Constitution and what needs to be changed. And we have made at least 3 or 4 very basic proposals. We need free education. The PNP will be having a discussion soon where they're going to talk about free education under Michael Manley. We need to come back to that. We need to have free education. I can go into a lot of reasons why we need free education, including crime. But we need free education. We need free healthcare. We need land for the landless. We need community self-government. We need several other things that need to be changed in this Constitution to improve our human rights, our constitutional rights, the Charter of Rights, and so on. Nobody is having any discussion about that whatsoever. And for me, that is very, very disappointing. Very disappointing.
So Lloyd, Jeffrey, if I
go ahead, Senator, go ahead.
Directly. The way in which the reform is being approached is in phases. So what is being looked at this point in time are the matters that have to go to a referendum. And there are some matters which have to go to a referendum. That is, the people have to vote on it. For example, the question of who can sit in the parliament. You know, the Constitution actually disqualifies certain people or lays down the qualifications for sitting in parliament. And one of those that we have looked at and had no difficulty with is that it actually gives the right to every Commonwealth citizen. Every Commonwealth citizen can qualify to become a senator or a member of parliament. And Lloyd, we found that completely untenable. It is true that in 1962, it might have been relevant, but it certainly is not relevant now. And one of the discussions which we will have to have is whether we will allow dual citizenship. I don't know if you recall that there was actually some litigation around that in 2007, when some of the sitting members of parliament were taken to court and challenged because some had American citizenship, Venezuelan citizenship, and so on. So what we have agreed, and I don't think the people would have a problem with that recommendation, which we are going to make, is that you must be a Jamaican citizen to qualify to sit in the parliament and in the Senate. The question of the election of senators is a very live matter. We're not going to come to that at this time. What we are actually focusing on now is the simple question of whether we want to remain a monarchy or we want a presidency. I will tell you that I share your view about the Charter of Rights. The Charter of Rights was, for me, a monumental step in the right direction. But a lot has changed since then. Should we, for example, have protection from discrimination on the grounds of disability? Should we have protection of discrimination on the grounds of your sexuality? These kinds of issues. It is true, Lloyd, that this present charter actually guarantees you the right to free primary education. The challenge I have with it is that it didn't say free quality primary education. And so I think we have to have some discourse about what is it that we want to, what are the rights we want to give to our people? What are the rights that our people will demand? I think that's a very important conversation. It's just that it's not going to take place in the first round.
Well, the point is that the last time they had a discussion about constitutional change was 1995. You know how many years ago that was?
Absolutely.
So when 2023, 2024, you decide, well, all right, we're going to have an executive or ceremonial president. How many decades more is it going to take for us to begin to discuss about the other deficiencies in the Constitution, the other changes which are necessary. How long is that going to take? This has to be a priority. No, this is the number one issue that needs to be addressed, in my opinion. You mentioned education. Yes, education is only about primary education, right? But secondary and tertiary education is not addressed. And not only that, children are going to school and don't have no money to buy lunch. And when they don't have no money to buy lunch, the parents don't send them to school, right? And so their education become deficient. And them don't move on, them don't go to high school, them don't go to university and all that kind of stuff. This is an emergency. This has to be addressed. The fact that the government is destroying people who are trying to plant on the land and trying to build a little house, and you go and destroy it and mash it up, right? We need to discuss this issue of land. And why are we going to wait 10, 15, 20 years before we have a discussion about that? The time is now. So I am not into this separation. Well, now we're going to just talk about the constitutional versus the ceremonial president.
Yes, Lord.
Let me just finish now. And then 10, 15 years from now, we're going to go further on. That is not acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
So let me tell you what the plan is. The plan is that we will, after the bill is tabled, the bill to establish the Republic of Jamaica, when that is tabled, it has to lay on the table of the House for 3 months. Once it is tabled, then we're going to go to the discussions on the other issues. We're not going to wait until after it is passed, because the whole issue, the whole way in which you would become a republic is really very slow. The bill has to lay on the table of the House for 3 months. It is then debated, and then it has to remain on the table for another 3 months. It is then sent to the Senate, where again, they have to go through the process of debate. And then it comes back to the House, and then the House sends it to a referendum. So there's a lot of time during which all the other consultations will take place, so that by the time we decolonize, by the time we become a republic, that whole process will be very informed, and we will be discussing with the people some of the changes which they would like to see in their constitution. Because, Lloyd, the republic, the term republic, suggests the sovereignty of the people. And what I would like to see is that the legislators, myself being one, actually begin to recognize and respect the sovereignty of the people. Interestingly, the people, only 37% of people voted in the last general election. But in this process, which has just started, people are making their voices heard. People are saying things like, I want to vote for my president. I want accountability for the parliamentarians. I want to be able to recall them if I don't like what they're doing. And so you can see what even this discussion is doing in terms of addressing the apathy in our country. So I'm happy for that. But the point that I'm making is that it's not going to be parked. The discussion is not going to be parked. Once the bill is tabled, then the discussion will take a different turn.
Well, can I ask
hold on for me, Lloyd. Within the new constitution is being drafted now, Donna, is it that they're gonna put in there term limits, impeachment?
Well, the new constitution is not being drafted now. The only aspect of it which will be addressed is the issue of becoming a republic. And then, after consultations and discussions with the people, we will be able to consider how the new constitution will be drafted. I personally am for term limits. I can tell you that if my vote will be for term limits, because people don't know when to leave, and people are offended when you say it's time to go. So if you have a term limit, then they will know I've served 2 terms, and according to the constitution, I need to demit. This is one of the discussions around even the president. How long should a president serve for? And should they be eligible for reappointment? All those things we want to hear from the people about.
And also, when it's being drafted, I hope they're going to put fixed election date, because it can't be that we're going to draft something and fixed election date is in it. It leave up to the BS of the Prime Minister to call an election. It cannot be that way, Donna, because Jamaicans are tired of the Danmanism and the bullyism. The local government election is constitutional due.
Yes.
And we must wait and wait and wait and wait and wait for what? So I hope, Donna, that when they draft this new constitution, they have fixed election date, because the people of our country are tired and fed up. When you watch what happened in Montego Bay, where they have the forum on constitution reform, you
Yes.
hardly see young people in there. But when you ask them why, Donna, they said, Jeffrey, why are we going there? I said, no, you all have to go there, because this is going to affect us. They said to me, Jeffrey, we're tired. We're tired of the political system in this country, where politicians just don't respect us. So I hope, Donna, that they have fixed election date. Go ahead.
But
I want to see actually a recall system in place,
Yes.
so that if the politician, if the member of parliament, or if we have elected senators, if they are not doing what they're supposed to do, if they are not performing in the way that the people would like, then they need to step down. I am not convinced about the fixed election date. I have to reflect on it a little while longer. I can see the benefits, but I can see some problems with it. Because my concern is, just like in the United States, where you have fixed election dates, after 2 years, it's almost like the focus is on election rather than what needs to be done. So I'm not committed to fixed election dates. I am willing to, I think the people's voice must be heard. I'm willing to listen to the different views before I come to a position myself. But I will say that that is something that in my own mind I've not resolved.
Well, let me ask a question, because I hear your favorable comments towards reforming the Constitution and so on. But that has not been coming from either the Prime Minister or the leader of the opposition. They have not been having any conversation with the people about the radical kind of constitutional reform which is necessary. Both sides are talking about is just going through the motions of becoming a republic, and when we become a republic, will it be a monarchy? Ceremonial or an executive president? I don't hear that kind of a conversation taking place, and so I believe that it is necessary for when these public forums are held to discuss the what is going on now. It is important for people who attend these things to begin to list A, B, C, D, E, F, G is what we need, because that discussion is not happening at all. I don't hear the opposition saying they want free education. I don't hear the opposition saying they want land for the landless. I don't hear nothing like that coming from the opposition. Nor do I hear the government saying that we want free education, we want land for the landless, and so on and so forth. Those issues are not being discussed. And so if we are to go by the past, all that we can expect is that once they have achieved what they want, which is to become a republic, then it could be decades from now before we begin to talk about the things that are necessary to affect the lives of the people. And that is very, very important. And so I'm wondering, I see where one commentator was saying, this whole thing is deficient, so we should vote no for the republic. But if we vote no and 10% vote for the republic, it doesn't make a difference. It's still going to be a republic. And if we even boycott it, it still doesn't make sense, because if 10 people vote and the PNP and the JLP are united on that, it makes no difference whatsoever. And so these are some very serious political issues that are involved in this upcoming referendum that is not being discussed at all.
Well, this referendum, remember that the changes is not all the changes in the Constitution that you require a referendum. You only require a referendum in relation to deeply entrenched clauses. And that is where the focus is. There is no doubt that all of those issues which you are speaking about will have to be considered. And as I explained, the intention of the Constitutional Reform Committee is to embark on that once the bill to become a republic has been tabled. No sensible politician can proceed to try to govern without hearing the people. That is going to be a serious mistake, because one of the things that you must understand about Jamaicans, they are patient, but when they are ready, when they feel that they are not being heard, when they feel that they are being oppressed, they will revolt. So any politician who is hearing and listening to people in the way now that you hear people stepping up and articulating a position, they have to take heed. We know that the only, not the only, let me be fair. One of the things that resonates powerfully with a politician is when you see people demonstrating.
Yes.
That they sit down and take note.
Mm-hmm.
So they take note of the people's voice when the people insist on being heard.
Yes. We have joining us Luke George Cook, community activist and for Jamaicans, in a sense, in the inner city. He speaks for the inner city people. Luke George Cook, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Tavares. We also have Mark Cameron, who have asked to join us, and he's here. And I'll allow him to introduce himself. I'm a little bit saddened, Jeffrey.
Mark, though. I'm seeing a little bit of you, Luke, but nothing of Mark.
Well, Senator, it's good to see you. We share a mutual friend who passed some time ago, Anit Campbell, and I remember we spoke about her.
Oh, yes.
And then I just before coming on a while ago, my mother notified me of the passing of Antoinette Horton Cardenas. So I'm deeply brokenhearted, because I know that Antoinette had to leave this country. And I know that wherever she is, or her spirit is, she died, in my mind, from a broken heart, having served this country with a lot of love for the ordinary Jamaican, and was a champion of the people's cause. And so tonight I just want to pay tribute to Antoinette. Sad to say that it's such bad news that we are having to get in terms of her and her contribution to the country. And I hope that we will have an opportunity to pay public respect to her work and her contribution. But Senator, my concern is...
Before you go on, Luke, let me join you in extending my condolences to the family and the friends of Antoinette Horton, who was an absolutely brilliant and phenomenal woman. She captivated people on the talk show to the point where at one stage you could hear people saying, you need to be prime minister, because she was so in touch with people's feelings and so empathetic towards the plight of the people of this country. She helped them, she empowered them, and the news of her passing was devastating. She apparently passed suddenly. She was not, her husband said she had no illnesses at all. She never took any medication. So we just release her.
Her. And myself, on the behalf of the Tavares family, I must extend my condolence to the Horton's family. I met Antoinette Horton when I was about 19 years old. when, you know, coming into Kingston to meet with my other Tavares family, I met her. And, you know, I find her to be a person who outspoken. She doesn't care. She just tell it like it is, and that's it. If you don't like it, that's your business. You know, and my heart goes out to the family, and my condolence to the Harton family on behalf of the Tavares family. Luke?
Yeah. Just to say that Antoinette shaped my views on politics and community and civic responsibility in such a profound way. I spoke to her in December, and I know that her love and passion for this country was a flame that was never put out. And I mean, I think of her now that we are on this road to republic, and just the position that she would have taken. I'm sure that what it would have been was to ensure that power is given to the people. I had the opportunity of just going out with Antoinette in the street, and would see Antoinette giving away thousands of dollars and taking number of children into her home and providing for them in such a profound way. But notwithstanding, I think that the work continues. One of our unsung heroes have left us. She has left her big shoes, and I'm sure that if we continue to do our part in our small corners, then we will honor her memory. Senator, I am, as a young person, I'm just concerned that while I recognize that this whole discussion of constitution reform started some 25 years ago, for us to have arrived at this place in so much uncertainty, I'm wondering why would the Prime Minister not broaden the conversation? Because one of the challenge for me is that we talk about this profound fundamental document that in all aspects of our life is almost like the guiding principles that we have to live by. However, the committee seems to be limited, and it doesn't necessarily have the representation of the ordinary Jamaican, who this will affect in more than one ways. Not saying that it doesn't affect all of us, but why are we doing this in such a rush when we're just coming out of COVID-19? And at what point will the people be given an opportunity to express just some of the aspects of it, especially those entrenchment part, in light of you using it to create state of emergencies, for instance, that more and more people are suffering because a young man can be taken up and be locked away for 72 days under the state of emergency act, and they seem to lose their job, and no, there's no recourse for them. So if you're doing something to better affect how you're going to police criminal activity, you have to think of the human right aspect of it. And then I'm a little bit concerned as well about the Charter of Rights, because of what was publicly uttered by both the commissioner and the deputy commissioner, where they think that the Charter of Rights is an overreach and you really should scale back on those fundamental rights. I'm not, as a young person in the country, I'm not satisfied with how it is being handled. I think it's too much of an important issue to be treated almost like it has to be. I know it has to be done, but shouldn't you broaden public opinion so that everybody gets their say in the matter?
Well, let me tell you my view. And Luke, I'm going to be extremely honest with you. When the Constitutional Reform Commission was established, my own driving desire was to see us decolonize. There were two things that I wanted. I wanted us to separate from the monarchy. I was willing to accept a ceremonial president because I wanted us to separate from the monarchy, and I wanted us to leave the Privy Council. I wanted total decolonization. I am one of those persons who, when I see how we are treated, we cannot go. We are the only country in the Caribbean who need a visa. Our citizens need a visa to go to UK. I am, as you know, I am married to a Barbadian, and so I have citizenship through marriage. And if we're going to Europe, I just use my Bayesian passport because I can go freely. When I see how the Windrush generation has been abused, how they have just been cast off after they have served this country, that went to war for them. They had their dignity stripped as they sought to build up England. And then suddenly now they were of no use. They were sent home to a country that they have never seen. I wonder why it is that we want to remain a monarchy. When I think about the abuses that we endured as slaves, beaten, tormented, tortured, burned to death, or women raped, or men dehumanized, I cannot understand the link to the monarchy. And so when I went into that room, all I wanted was to see the delinking. Not to go to the Privy Council, not to have some white men in the UK determining the fate of this country. But you see, I listen. I think that's the most important thing for people to do. You need to listen. And as I've heard people say, they want to have a voice in choosing their president. I think it is incumbent on us to figure out how that must be done. And in countries, there are different ways. Guyana has a fascinating system, because when the political parties are campaigning, when they are going to election, they put on the ballot the person who they would choose to be president, so that people who are the voters have an opportunity to look and determine which president they want to lead them. There are a lot of different models all over that we could look at, but I have been convinced by the voices of the people that we shouldn't just rush to make a decision and take for granted that everybody will be fine with what we call a ceremonial presidency.
Senator, before we go any further, members of the panel, let us, because Senator don't have a long time with us, so let us ask the questions and have her answer, because she only can spend an hour with us.
Yes,
I would love for her to spend 2 hours, but she can't even go until 9:30 to 8:30 or 9:30. But she has to go, so let us just ask her the question and have her answered. Senator, there's some people in the chat room asking the question when it comes on to crown lands, and I've already told them that the lands belongs to Jamaica.
Yes, but we call it crown lands, and we have an act that they calls it crown lands.
Right. So when we become a republic now, it won't be no longer crown lands.
It can't be crown lands. Everywhere that you have crown, or you have monarch, or you have queen, or you have king, it would have to be deleted.
Senator,
yes, sorry, please go ahead.
But Senator, we pay what, $1 million per day for the upkeep for the Governor General. Will we be paying $1 million to this new president per day for his or her upkeep, whoever that person may be?
I actually think it is more than that. When I looked at the budget for 2022, I think the allocation was $424 million. Those things are administrative decisions that have to be taken. Do you really need?
Sorry to stop you. Can you repeat that figure again?
It's online. You can look in what we call a yellow book. It was $424 million in 2022 for the recurrent expenditures of the Governor General's office. And it's a first, you don't need to detain yourself too long, because it's a very first item in the estimates of expenditure.
Lamb of God says we don't have.
What? I didn't hear that.
I go with my grandmother, she always says to me.
No, you have to say that one again so I can catch it.
Lamb of God says we don't have.
Okay, I never heard that one. And I'm a country girl, but I never heard that Wonderful.
So, Senator, we should be excited to dealing, but with the high level of abuses that are carried out by the executive on the people of Jamaica with very little accountability. What is it that we're going to entrench to ensure that if this was the new direction that we go as a country, that we are going to hold those people in political office to accountability and transparency, and possibly to have them arrested and locked up for charges of breaches. For instance, currently under the current system, you ask that all politicians and heads of statutory bodies must do a financial declaration. From my last check, the current Prime Minister, has he handed in his statutory deduction, and what would prevent him from not what is preventing him from not showing the record? And in this new dispensation, do we want to have people who have Mark, I'm going to allow you to speak, right? Should we have persons sitting as heads of government who can fulfill this simple mandate? And secondly, how do you feel about the removing of the office of the political ombudsman, which was basically a part of the way how you keep our politicians in check? And then it was at the stroke of a pen, it was abolished in one night without coming to the people to say why it is. There are just some things that we can't just trust this process. Again, I'm asking, why couldn't it be broadened in a similar fashion, where you have persons in the diaspora participating in the conversation, who may be learning person on crafting the new a constitution or amending the existing one. Certainly you want to make sure that the wider cross-section of Jamaica is representative. I don't have any problem with you.
George, sorry to be cutting you, but allow her to answer, because
Well,
we don't have
there
enough
are
time with
so
her.
there are so many questions in that one observation. Let me
It's
start.
because you're leaving in an hour. I'm trying to.
Yes, I understand.
And we have Lloyd to come on, and we have Mark to come in.
So the abuses which you are concerned about, those abuses have been taking place since time immemorial. And certainly in the 60 years that we have had political independence, I have not seen an abatement. In fact, in some circumstances, I would say that the authority, and you mentioned the state of emergency, for example, that has become very prevalent. Prior to this administration, a state of emergency was a rare thing. The People's National Party called one state of emergency for violence in 1976. Prior to that, the JLP had called a state of emergency, I think in the 1967. And after that, every state of emergency was around hurricane and disasters. It is this administration who has decided to use it as a tool in a toolkit. And so, yes, the abuses have evolved. I don't think that we can say that because we are a monarchy, or because we transition to republic, that will change. What will change is when the people demand change. The people have to be involved in this process, just like how we have in this conversation. The people need to speak up. And part of the way that their voices are heard is when they go to vote. They have to decide whose philosophies and policies best suits them. Now I'm going to try to deal with some of them. The Charter of Rights. I believe that the Charter of Rights should be revised and revisited, but not to diminish the rights of the people, but to expand it. As we have evolved, there are a number of issues that have come forward that show us that human rights are no longer the static rights. And so we have to give voice to our people, protection to our people. Remember that the Charter of Rights is the bedrock of our Constitution and the bedrock of the people of this country. People need to know what it says, and people need to understand it. And when their rights are abused, they need to move forward. Remember, that is the first time that we have taken a matter to the court to say that our environmental rights have been breached. So there's a level of consciousness which is emerging around the Charter of Rights. The political ombudsman. People's National Party had committed to having the political ombudsman embedded in the Constitution. In the same way that we have the Director of Public Prosecutions and we have the Electoral Commission, we wanted to embed the political ombudsman. This administration has, as you have said, just not reappointed the ombudsman, even though there is legislation which they have not repealed. So it is an illegal act that they have embarked upon, because the act is still in place that requires you to appoint a political ombudsman. When we become government again, we intend to follow through on a commitment to have the political ombudsman entrenched in the Constitution.
Sorry about that, Senator. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that we're concerned about. We don't like the appointment situation. There are too many appointments. We believe in people being voted in. I think that's the best way to get the best form of democracy could have is when people are voted into position and they answer to the people. The ceremonial president, I don't think Jamaica can afford that. We are actually borrowing to survive. We are borrowing and liquidating assets to survive. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't have an executive president. We don't need a leader and a president. There's a president that's voted directly by the people. The Senate voted directly by the people. And that is the way you keep accountability to the people of Jamaica. As it relates to the ombudsman, I believe that should also be a position that is not politicized. Appointed by whom? The people are the ones who, if the political ombudsman is to be objective about anything, that person should be elected. And so is the chief of police. We don't believe in all these appointments. The appointments are done by our favors to political loyalists over the years, and we need to break that cycle. Now, one more thing you talked about was the republic. The republic in name, it doesn't mean anything. A name change doesn't mean anything if it does not, in a meaningful way, address the concerns of the Jamaican people. So we need to, stop focusing on his name. But substance. I mean, moving away from a colonized mindset into a more Jamaican way of thinking and what we want. We've had a history of what has not worked in our country in the past, and armed with that information, I believe the best avenue for Jamaica right now is a non-partisan democracy, where there's no GLP or PNP or even up Jamaica or USC, where Jamaicans represent Jamaica. This back and forth thing with GLP and PNP has not worked, and no one on this panel can tell me that it has worked, because we're not getting what we want.
Oh, okay, Mark. Let's allow the senator to answer now, because we know she has to go exactly on time. Go ahead,
well,
Senator.
let me just ask this question, Mark. I'm fascinated about your thoughts that all these persons should be elected. But we have had less and less people voting. The voter apathy is so high. In fact, my friend Luke George had pointed out that there were so few young people at the Constitutional Reform Commission meeting in Montego Bay. And they're saying, but why? Why should I go? So if we leave, we have to also be pragmatic. If we leave all these matters to the voting public, what kind of result will we see?
Well, I can answer that question. The fact of the matter is that the Jamaican public believes that if they vote for JLP or PNP, they're getting the same thing. I believe we're run by duopoly governance, because it's JLP and PNP versus Jamaican people.
I wouldn't like to think so. I wouldn't like to think that our political parties and political leaders do not take the wishes and the will of the people into account. I believe that there are representatives who are truly committed to serving Jamaica. There are what we call servant leaders, and what we should do is identify them and put them in positions of leadership, because we know they are not there to to benefit financially. We know that they are truly committed to serve. I have met a lot of people who are like that, but it is the people of Jamaica who need to ensure that those are the persons who get elected. There's an attitude mark amongst Jamaicans, which when people are accused of feathering their own nest or accused of corruption, they say, well, I saw politics go, I saw it set. Instead of being repulsed by the act and looking at what it costs the country. What some politicians are accused of pocketing, the level of corruption in this country. We wouldn't have a problem with education if we put those funds there. So the accountability can be demonstrated now if the people insist on certain things being done rather than condone it and say, oh, corruption doesn't matter, so the thing said. Can you imagine the dramatic change which would take place in this country if the people started saying, no, anybody who is even alleged to thief must leave?
Let me make one quick point, right? You're talking about corruption. Every time there is a poll, at least 70% of the people say that the system corrupt, the political parties corrupt. Do you accept that the PNP and the JLP are corrupt? And how do we deal with two political parties, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, being corrupt? How can we change that system if the both political parties are corrupt?
I would never call both political parties corrupt. The politicians are taken from the country, from the communities. The politicians are taken from the constituencies. They reflect the people. So you can't just be corrupt because you're a JLP or corrupt because you're a PNP. Politics might facilitate some of the actions, but you are who you are. And I have no interest in broadwashing the Jamaica Labour Party, although I'm not a supporter of them, to say, oh, they're a corrupt political party. And certainly in my party, like everywhere else, you might have people who are corrupt, but there is no evidence to suggest that either political party is a corrupt institution. What I am saying is that in our constitution, let's put in the right to recall, so that if the people say, no, this man too thief, I don't want this man, or this man is not serving the constituency. When I say man, I shouldn't say that, because we have a lot of women. And I don't want them to think that I'm discriminating, because I want more women to get involved in politics. But what I'm saying is that they can say, no, we have had enough. We have had enough better representation.
So you're saying that the people are misguided in 70% of them saying that the two political parties corrupt. They are misguided, they are wrong.
I am saying that they cannot attribute that to political parties. That the political parties reflect the society. And if you look across a wide spectrum of the society, what they're really saying is that the corruption is rife in Jamaica. But only they can make the difference. Only they can demand that stop at any levels. I have seen the way that certain people are treated, like certain affluent and influential people in the society. When they are accused of committing a crime, it's almost like, you hear, oh, it's taking so long to investigate because it's complicated. They go to jail, it's like that they're living in a hotel. They can have TV, nightlight, private nurses, and whereas they're in another situation, there are 10 men in a cell. They are reduced to the level of human indignity, where they perform the most private of functions in front of each other.
How many members of the PNP? How many members?
Hold on, Lloyd.
Hold on,
Lloyd.
Just hold on now. Let me just ask a quick question. How many members of the People's National Party have been accused of corruption?
Hold on for me, please.
And can you answer that question? And they're in the parliament right now. How many of them? How many of them
have been accused?
Yeah, of corruption. Mark Gold, beginning with Mark Golden and Peter Bunting way back when in the in the sweetheart deal between them. Let's start there and come forward. How many of them have been accused of corruption?
I am not
Hold on for me,
going
Senator.
to.
Senator, hold on a minute for me, Senator, please. Lloyd, I'm asking you, please. When I ask you to say something, please just hold
All
on.
right, I will leave. I will leave. I will leave this thing. I will leave. I will leave. I will leave.
I want to say though,
Go ahead,
just
Senator.
to make this observation, because I've seen it come up in the chat about the role of the Maroons in this discussion. I believe that it is important that they be particularly involved, and that we give some space to the people who we consider are the people who are indigenous people in Jamaica. So the person who asked about that, I noticed that my friend Norman Reed asked the same question in Montego Bay. How will the voice of the Maroons be heard? And I think that as many people as possible should speak, and their voices should be listened to. Now, you're not going to have consensus, because there are so many variations of suggestions coming through. But there has to be a formula to assess and analyze what it is that the people, the voices are calling for, so that you can make some informed decisions.
Luke, are you there with us?
One of the things that Luke had asked about, because he seems to be having a slight problem,
Yes, go ahead.
is the declaration of the Prime Minister. My understanding is that he has declared, but it has not been certified for a particular year. Now, what happens is that the leader of opposition and the Prime Minister, they're required to send in their declarations and to make it public. Mark has made his public. Peter Phillips made his public, but we have not seen the Prime Minister's own. And I urge him, especially since we are having this discussion about going to a republic, that we must demonstrate a new way of governing, and that he must lead on it by this level of accountability and transparency.
Senator, a lot of people has so many things to say about the drafting and the reform of the Constitution. But I know you only have a minute here with us. So before you go, can you just tell us, when will the people have a say? Okay, Luke is back. Luke, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Luke.
Yeah. Senator, I'm delighted that you have sort of made a clarification on how I share your views on corruption. The country has to decide that we can't just say they are corrupt. I remember that there was a distribution in the COVID era of persons getting some social aid, and and before that there was an utterance in the Parliament by Mr. Warmington that aid must be held back from the people until the Prime Minister know how they vote. Now, public utterances like that don't give the people confidence, because over and over Mr. Warmington makes these public utterances, and it seems like he goes out of being censored by the Parliament. I had no doubt that the person who was agitating the mastermark thing and trying to talk down Angela Brownberg would have been the said senator. He has called MP Lisa Hanna Jezebel or harlot, something like that, and so forth. And is that the best type of leadership? And what is that doing for the young voters who are looking at this sort of tribal back and front? And it seems like the Parliament is run in a very indisciplined manner. Certainly, if you have like the Speaker of the House that is accused of being in a land matter that is a questionable situation, everybody is guilty until proven innocent. Why wouldn't you even step down to allow?
You
Huh?
said it the
Yeah,
opposite
yeah.
way.
Yeah, as I tell you, I'm so brokenhearted. I'm really just, it's
Yes.
because I made a commitment to come on, and I really didn't want to disappoint Mr. Tavares, and it would have given me an opportunity to speak to one of the most authentic politicians in the Jamaican population that I know. I have no doubt that you are not a part of that corrupt group, but there is the wide perception that our politicians seem to get away with some blatant act of criminality that the ordinary man, the man who got pick Aki on the Governor General, got 6 months. But when you talk about the Petro Jam situation, the cake, you talk about MP Floyd Green going out and breaking the rules, and then everybody just seeing like there is a time when you get a timeout in the timeout corner, but you're brought back. And it goes against the backdrop, Senator, that I speak about this situation all the time. I saw a group of young people soliciting money on the plaza in the mall. And when I tried to stop them, because I know where this group of young men came from, and I told them that it was wrong, they said to me, so how come when politicians and big man in the society do it, we don't hear anybody advocating for them to be punished or asking them to step down? But when we, the ordinary people, do it to try to make our circumstances better, you all seem to come out, and it is to us that you are preaching the paragons of virtue too, and not the leaders. And to me, that in and of itself, that perception of leadership that goes right across the board, church, politician, heads of organization, community leaders, it is a reflection of how many of the young people feel and feed into why you have this large voter apathy. But that is what I would like to see in this new policy document, that we must hold our leaders feet to the fire, and they must leave. There must not be a hole in cell for anybody up at Jamaica House. If the people's perception of you is that you have criminal intent and you might have carried out criminal activities in the past, then you should go, to make this thing transparent, and so that young people are not confused about the double messages that we are sending them in light of the fact that they're calling for a better country and a better leadership that they can follow.
Well, that is, I can't disagree with anything you've said. And let me, Jeffrey, as I thank you for having me on this program, say, I am committed to a better Jamaica. I am committed to doing everything I can to see better governance for the people and greater accountability. I promise one thing: I will not ever lie to the people of this country, even if it would be convenient for me to do so. And I know that there are many of my colleagues who feel the same way about Jamaica and about the kind of service that we are to give to the people of Jamaica. Sometimes it's a personal commitment. Sometimes it is just who you are that you bring to a position. And I think that there are many people who are yearning to make a contribution to their country. For example, one of the suggestions that I've made in the CRC is that we should have a subcommittee of people in the diaspora, so that their voices can be heard in a fulsome way.
Yes.
And Jeffrey, this talk show that you have, this Make We Talk, is a significant part of how we will bring about change, how it is that we'll educate people and enlighten people to bring about a different kind of situation. So I really thank you. Look, George, I'm so sorry.
I know you have to go. Can we see the terms of reference for the construct of the committee? What can that be published?
The terms of reference will be published. There was agreement that all the documents, the minutes, and we actually have stenowriters in the committee taking notes, and there's an agreement that all of that will be made public so that the people can access it and assess the
And
quality
last
of operations.
and last but not least, why couldn't an ordinary Jamaican that is of no great name or education
I can't support the description of any Jamaican as an ordinary Jamaican. Let me say that firstly.
all right. Why couldn't a man from lowly estate like George Cook? Why couldn't a man like that sit on the committee to ensure that the people they understand the pulse of the people? I know that they have confidence in some of the people that are there, but if you could have taken a man from Canada, why you couldn't take a man from Arnett Garden or Tivoli Gardens?
I can't answer to the composition of the committee. The opposition was asked to name 2 persons, and they named myself and Anthony Hilton. And then we were given the opportunity to nominate another person, and we nominated Hugh Small. So we had no input into the formation of the committee, and we had no say as to who would participate. I can tell you, however, that the committee, I find that is a very interesting blend, and that people differ in a very respectful way. People listen and hear the differing opinions, and that it really might have been accidental, but it's a good committee in the sense that the deliberations are deliberate, they are considered, they are reflective. I have enjoyed, we have had 7 meetings so far, and each one of them has been very enlightening, very revealing, very empowering for even somebody like me who is both an attorney and a legislator, because there are different views. For example, you get fed into that, the views of the church, the views of civil society, and so on. I don't think we're going to have a perfect committee. I don't think under any circumstances we would have a sort of committee that
I'm not asking Senator for a perfect committee. I'm just saying that if you look at your state body, the honor, well, you say you don't like the term,
no, I don't
but
like
the people,
every Jamaican
all right.
is
So
special.
let me just take it out. All of the special Jamaicans that live at below Crossroad are usually never.
Look, the name of the people who lives up a crossroad is the people of the Vumvava and the Vumvavi. The people who live below crossroad.
No, but Senator, if any respect, and this is because it's not you constructed the committee, if any respect, and I would like to say this to the Prime Minister without any apology, if you had any respect for the poor people of this country who have given you the privilege to serve, it is full time that every committee in this country that is pulled together. An ordinary Jamaican, well, you know, like ordinary, an extraordinary Jamaican below Crossroad and in some of our deep rural area should sit there. I'm glad that you enjoy the dynamic mix, but it would have even been more spicier if you get a man where just every day him don't agree with the system and him just wanted to change because he wants to see the space better. Not to say that persons like yourself not doing that, but the voice of the people is the voice of God. And oftentimes when we look in the room, it's not people who always reflect our value, you know, our experience, the sort of injustice that we experience. And so I'm a little bit disappointed that where democracy starts, that before election when you want my vote, but after you get my vote, I become no persona non grata. And I would like the Prime Minister to stop that. Stop using the people of Jamaica for gaining political mileage, and then you leave out those people's voice. Everybody's voice must be accounted. And I'm happy that you're advocating for the diaspora. Advocate for the rest of us too, because
I'm sure that the powers that be, those people in authority who can make a decision like that, they're monitoring this show, Jeffrey, and they will hear your voice.
Yes.
They are, Senator, because I might need your legal services.
After tonight, Jeffrey,
I might not be able to pay.
I want the Vava Voom, Uptown Vava Voom, and what?
No,
you have taught me to. I said the Uptown is Vava Voom.
No. The Vumvava and the Vumvavi.
The vumvava and the you see, boy, I learned something. I learned two things that I never knew.
Before you go, Senator, you should go in the committee and say that the definition of a JLP is Jamaican love poverty, and the one for PNP is poor nigga poor. This is how the people who don't vote now look at it. So apathy has settled in, and the Stockholm syndrome is not going to hold anymore. So we have to be careful that although you see less, you're going to see more uprising.
People like Jeffrey and yourself, people like Jeffrey and yourself will mobilize and motivate and make the difference.
Senator?
Boy, Senator, you're too kind.
You don't want me to leave, you know, Jeffrey.
That's what I realize.
Every time
I
I say
want
goodbye.
you to come back, you know.
Yes.
I have to make you go because I want you to come back. And somebody was saying, why do we have a Canadian? But before you go, Senator, let me make something clear on the platform here this evening. Senator Donna Motley does not have the power to appoint anyone. It lies with the Prime Minister of this country. He was the one who appoints who he wants to appoint. The Senator has no power. The Prime Minister didn't appoint anybody from the diaspora. Not a soul from the diaspora was appointed.
And from what Senator said a while ago, Jeffrey, it seemed like it was only to facilitate the opposition, so it don't look unbiased. But notwithstanding what the Attorney General said, or the General Attorney, Ms. Foote, said, she don't even see why we need an opposition, because all they do is oppose. When you make public utterance like that, you're saying that then the Constitution is not so entrenched and that you want dictatorship. And I make no apology. That statement alone, she should have resigned. You have to respect that there are going to be dissenting voices, and they are not always going to be in support of you.
Yes.
But Senator, I wish I could have kept you a little bit longer.
Luke, don't go anywhere. You hold on. Let's give her final word. She can go and come back on this program and tell us.
You want that final word these days? I don't like that final word. She don't like ordinary Jamaican. Me don't like final word. Her parting word. But
I really want to thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed this discourse. I look forward to many, many more like that. I'm glad that my friend is here and that he has reminded me of the two people we are both close to.
Two extraordinary women. Somebody in the chat, Senator, did say that they would like for you to participate in more public forum, and there is some town hall meeting that was supposed to be held in a parish. I was trying to read it to tell you.
I saw that one. I saw the Clarendon College person who said I should advocate for one at Clarendon College. You know, I'm a Clarendon College past student, right? I'm a country girl from Clarendon. Yes, I was head girl at Clarendon College.
Okay,
that's I think the institution is proud. You just to listen to you speak is so reassuring. If every politician could speak with the honesty and the clarity that you do, then we would not have political apathy. What you would have is more participation and involvement.
And I thank you, because I see one of our friends asking can I come back and give 2 hours. I promise you very soon. Thank you so very much. I am I'm deeply grateful.
I will talk to you, Senator. Outside of this forum.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on, Senator. And don't be a stranger to Make We Talk. Tell all your parliamentarians about Make We Talk.
Make We Talk.
and the 2 words, the vumvavon, the vumvaveen.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Senator. All the best.
Good night. Good night. Bye then.
Luke, you and I are going to wrap up this program based on what the Senator just said. Some you know, it took what, $440 something million to upkeep the Governor General's house.
Mm-hmm. So the recurring expenditure for a ceremonial head is almost what you can build 1 or 2 basic school with and supply several more pieces of equipment to a hospital. And that is part of the reason why we have to change it, because when you look at the role of the Governor General, how effective it is in carrying out just basically the ceremonial functions. You install the parliament, you declare the parliament open, you give the crown speech. But outside of that, you have no overreach. In the Governor General have the Governor General award, but you have no overreaching power to influence policies or to drive programs that are going to better and enhance the life of the many. And so you have to ask yourself, is that value for money? When you have people in here getting only $13,000 for minimum wages for a family of 5, you have people living luxuriously at the expense of just being a ceremonial figure in the country. And I would want to think that if we do go republic, when we do go republic, Senator seems to be sold on the idea. The sentiment is always that when you look at the atrocity that has been committed by our European partners and those that enslave us, it is befitting that we break ties with them. But the concern still is, are you going to give more entrenchment of the rights of the citizen to revolt against its government because you are not fulfilling or function in a way that we are a better society? It's 60 years, Jeffrey. It's 60 years after 60 years after that we have been given independence. But there is a discussion now about repatriation and just the atrocity of what happened during the slave period, and why we're asking that, why were the slave masters paid but not the slave? So like the United States, the slaves here did not get a mule or a plot of land, and it took bloodshed for the ones in the United States who got that plot of land and a mule. It still took them a period of time before, and still the culture has not changed. And you're asking yourself what has changed in the Jamaican culture that is going to be beneficial to people. For instance, when you look at just the hospital system, Jeffrey, you ask yourself, politicians don't go to the hospital that the people of Jamaica have to go to, and most of the hospitals are woefully inadequate. It's sad because KPH was once ranked among the highest performing hospital in the English-speaking Caribbean and possibly in the world. Now you go there, the X-ray machine don't work, this machine don't work, the place is roach infected, the building is outdated. It's
look,
almost like
look, 1 minute. Continue talking. I gotta go do something at the thing. Continue talking. The alarm is going off at the house here.
Right. So for that reason, you have to say to yourself, why would we pay a ceremonial head all of that money when and what value? So it would have to be, you have to look at the value to the country and how people benefit versus the essential services like ensuring that your firefighter have effective equipment that when they are called to a fire site that they can. The police complain that they never have enough police car when there is a massive shooting, and sometimes the scene of crime, because they tell you, oh, we only have 2 buses that serve the 3 counties in Jamaica, and you have asked yourself, what? I mean, so you could have somebody, your loved one, lying on the ground for an extended period of time. If you look at the Tivoli incursion, and then you hear how people's body were just out there on the ground and they were decomposing, and dogs were actually eating on the human remains of Jamaicans who were killed in this incursion, you definitely have to ask yourself, Jeffrey, where is the priority of government and successful government if we don't make sure that our institutions that are to serve the people work? And it's just a major challenge. It's just a major challenge. So That are one. You have Royal that has another budget that is being you're upkeeping it, but instead of you turn it into a
Why are you
museum
upkeeping
and
it?
make
And
money.
it's not living in Royal? Nobody don't live up there?
I don't know, that is only Duppy. Royal is sometimes used for other activity, but I can't say that on here because I don't want nobody to sue me. But it is used for
Well, we
other
can say it.
activity. Well, you say it.
It used for sex. Jeffrey, shut your mouth. Continue, Luke George.
Right. So you have to look on Royal and say why you don't turn it into a museum. But the truth of the matter, Jeffrey, one of the things that I would have loved to say to the senator, we are going for this reform. We are
Yes.
we are going for this. We're going for this reform, but we're not doing it in a way that it is productive because the existing constitution, Jamaicans not are aware of it or how it works, but yet still we're reforming something and saying that that is what we need to give to the people. And so it is for that reason why I'm advocating that other people should have a say in how the constitution is reformed.
You know something, Luke? If we don't come together and have forums like these and start talk out, you know what they'll do? They'll just push the constitution down our throat like that they did with the needs, you know.
But that is exactly what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying, Mr. Tavares. If I would like for you to break out into a working group and we get some of the experts within the diaspora community and some of the experts here, and we look at the existing constitution and some of the fundamental defects of it, and then we work into it what it is that we need to see that this powder constitution has not given to the people of Jamaica, so that it is there. And as she said, the sections that will have to be changed is the entrenched part, like how you will have to remove the crown as head of state for the ceremonial president. And I'm saying I don't think we need to do it that way. We must look at another way that we could have somebody. Because you see, if it is left up to the prime minister to decide as against the people who will become the ceremonial head, of course they're going to choose somebody that is probably more on the side of the people who elect them, versus what I heard the senator saying, that it would be best served if you could have somebody who the people believe that would better serve us as a country, whether that person is in well, you're probably going to have it that them say it have to be in Jamaica, but somebody who basically better represent the will and the wish of the people. And so it is for the people to look among ourselves now and say this person and that person, because I fundamentally believe that there are good Jamaicans who could serve us, but would not want to necessarily want to get into the political arena. You look back at people like former Commissioner of Police Macmillan, and just his stand on values and attitude. You know, even a Greg Christie, who seems not to ever want to he speaks out against the corruption on both sides of the political divide. You have people like Betty and Blaine, who herself have sacrificed a tremendous amount, and even at one point was vice president to Antoinette Horton in the UPP, United People's Party. So there are these. Yes.
Before you go down that road, you know what just came to me a while ago? And I need to throw this out to you. If the Prime Minister of this country knew that he was going to go down the road of constitutional reform and we go in republic, why did he put up Camellia Johnson Smith to become Secretary General of the Commonwealth?
there is an argument, and one of the things that I don't want to water down your throat is hearsay, but it holds validity. And here's what the argument is. Um, Baroness
Scotland.
is it Scotland was part of that whole regime who removed Boris Johnson from
Johnson,
office.
yes.
And in a bid to redeem Boris Johnson's image, our government was asked to support the idea of having her removed. And so you notice that the British was going around trying to skirt up support from certain Caribbean country, because Jamaica largely still holds an influence in shaping the Caribbean and has played a significant role on the international stage. You remember back in the 70s, in the middle of the Cold War, we had spies down here, Kissinger coming to talk to Manley. Jamaica has played a significant part. The history needs to be told, because we were a part of freeing South Africa and oppressed African nations. We have always had strong opinion, and we have always hold a strong influence in the international community. Notwithstanding, now we have we have the fastest man and woman in the world. So in every sphere of life, be it political, be it sports, be it drama, be it theater, Jamaicans are right there. If you go to the farthest place in Iceland, you probably will find some ackee and sawfish. Betty and Blaine once told me a story of going to Bali and just wearing a Bob Marley t-shirt, and how the people just surrounded her and said, Bob Marley, and they knew of Bob Marley in a remote area like Bali. So you have to look at what we have as a power that has been undermined by the political system, and the people who have profited off Jamaica and continue to profit off Jamaica without paying their full compensation. So it's taxation without proper representation. So if you look at that argument, similar like how several Jamaicans have said, the Prime Minister said us out, why did you agree with the Americans when you cut ties with Venezuela and the Petrocaribe, where we were getting free oil and scholarship to help many poor people? Are you making the decision as a political dynasty in the interest of Jamaicans, or are you going with your larger counterpart in the G7, who will never, ever, ever fund half of the things that we have asked for? Not on climate change, not on not on health, we can't even have a conversation with those neo-political groups about basic medicinal herbs that we could sell, or the export market, are supporting the vanishing economy of the Caribbean. So Britain enslaved us, but they will use us when, and then you can't use politicians, because when you use that level of when you have that level of support from from the governance structure, when the bigger country come calling, and that is for the reason why President Obama came to remind the Jamaican that I know on the scouting of the Chinese, but on the best bet is still the United States of America. And you look at what is happening now in terms of the migration of Jamaicans having to risk their life to get to the United States, having gone sometime 5-10 times to the embassy, paying out 30,000 every time to go. So the people have just said, look, I'm not going to pay this 300,000 because you're taking my money and I'm not getting a proper interview. So I'm just going to go the route of Mexico. Jeffrey, the truth of the matter is that I agree with Donna. The people must get up and talk, but we must strategize a vision and some broad objective of what we would like to see. We would like to see the service industry in Jamaica change. We would like to see the police force change. We'd like to see public health and the environmental issues change. We certainly would like a reform of the education system. We want to see wealth creation that can benefit all Jamaicans and not just a handful of Jamaicans. So part of the curriculum, you have to teach about how you can teach people to create new innovative ideas and to start small businesses.
You know something, Luke? You said that Jamaica at one point was the mother of the Caribbean. I was watching some. I'm not going to come up with the whole Constitution thing, listeners and viewers. But I was watching something on YouTube where since Guyana have oil to serve for the next how many years, you realize that Guyana going to become the head of CARICOM come 2024. And Guyana is going to surpass some of the OPEC countries that have oil, you know. So pretty soon, Guyana will be the head of the Caribbean, not Jamaica. Because Jamaica has lost its respect amongst Caribbean leaders, you know. Because of this administration and the whole CARICOM Secretary General Bangarang.
And it's not just that. CARICOM has started to lose its respect for Jamaica from the Patterson administration. You see, with Michael Manley, CARICOM saw, and look here, when you take me down this road, I know what people are going to say, Lord, he's PMP. But with Michael Manley, whole idea of incorporating the region and suffered at the hands of the neo-politicians by being called a communist because he wanted the Cuba to be given a seat in CARICOM. He wants Haiti to move from. He wanted Haiti to move from state as an observer status to be recognized by CARICOM, and those struggles continue. If communist Cuba, as they continue to call it, the embargo was to be lifted off Cuba, then Cuba would become a first world country. But something interesting that I wanted to talk to the senator about, because when you get on this forum, we need to try to get a better understanding. There is a treaty of Chaguaramas that governs the Caribbean state. And recently,
the Treaty of Chaguaramas?
Yeah. And recently, if you notice that people are being denied entry into some country by using sections of the treaty, when we talk about the free movements between Caribbean national, and so you see more persons in the Caribbean now moving for a visa application, and Senator alluded to it by being married to a Barbadian. I don't know how come a Jamaican did not sweep her off her feet, but notwithstanding. But there is that broader discussion whether or not CARICOM has any relevance, and what does that mean, right? What does that mean for us as Caribbean national? Because there is still a hostility towards Jamaican in the Caribbean region that it is almost unbearable when you move to places like Barbados, Trinidad, Antigua, and Barbuda. I mean, the open hostility is almost like how we wrap them birthright or we name them white fowl. And so when I hear, oh, we want to remove ourselves from the Privy Council and move ourselves to the Caribbean courts probably of appeal as our final appellate court. You really think, say, when you look at corruption at this level, in terms of the local corruption between just politicians and the things that both parties allow the other party to get away, because both are sometime in bed, everybody cover up. And I agree, your MPs are selected from the people, and you know, this is probably what is frustrating to my friend Lloyd Diagla, that you can't take one sledgehammer and change Jamaica, and so you have to go piece by piece to change mindset and heart. But what I didn't agree with the senator, sometimes there are people in those communities who are working assiduously, not being paid, called community developers, and they're not given a seat at the table to run because they don't have the means and the party will not support them. So it's the Vim Vava and the Vum Vavim who gets elected to these offices. And and that to me is where the people don't get value for money, because it's almost like the person who is there, they're there, but they love the poor, but they are detached from the reality of the suffering of the poor. And so,
and not only that, Luke, when the people cannot speak to who they elect, then something is fundamentally wrong.
Wrong, Jeffrey.
And if we right now, the only look at this, we're drafting a new constitution. Same when the Prime Minister took to the streets about taking the vaccine. Why can't he take to the streets and educate the people about drafting our new constitution?
But
Why is it the Jamaican people through?
But it goes against it goes against the backdrop that the senator is saying. I am very enthused about it because of the delinkment of us having to have that European history. Given the European history, what happened to what happened to the Windrush generation? Our Prime Minister did not go to Britain and defend unapologetically. It was white people in Britain that was opposing to the Windrush and how the Jamaicans were treated. And you know that in that era and that period, people left this country and went and built the United Kingdom without getting proper documentation, and their documents became lost because they are treated as nobodies. You have done your service, so you must go home. And so you have this large amount of deportation. And at one time, we were even scouting up Britain to build a prison. A prison for what? A prison for what? So you're sending home people back to Jamaica with £5,000. So that is their mule and their piece of land. What will they do with £5,000? And some of these people were so connected to this so-called criminal underground that when they come back on the island, they come here with specialized training, knowledge of how certain things run, and they create a bigger problem for our national security and the policies that some say is not there. There's not a tight enough national security policy. So the Ross Jeffrey is that because the Jamaica Labour Party is of the opinion that they are going to have 18 years to match the PMP, and it will give them sufficient time for them to strengthen the wealth of their pockets and their prestigious facados lifestyle, that you can take something as fundamental to the people and not treat it with the respect of going out there and saying, this is what we currently have. We have new circumstances. This can no longer hold. So notice what he's pushing. The Prime Minister is a legacy Prime Minister. You know, he wants to go down in history as a Prime Minister, but not the legacy of letting us see his tax returns and to show every Jamaican that everybody is not above the law, and therefore they need to pay their fair share of taxes and be accountable to the laws of Jamaica and the Jamaican people. It is a law that you have to show your statutory return when you work in the public service. But to date, people don't have a problem when they see this Prime Minister can show his tax return. And all it is doing, Jeffrey, is feeding into the narrative that this Prime Minister is going to go down in history as Jamaica's richest Prime Minister. But there is no accountability to the very laws that you are trying to change by fulfilling a mandate of showing your tax return. And it also gives the executive power based on the people. So when Senator says she's delighted, I'm happy she's delighted. I'm worried that you put a Rocky Mead, there as deputy. What has Rocky Mead done in this country that is significant? What does he know about the Constitution when he has criticized the very fundamental Charter of Rights that we should be broadening the participation of persons taking part? And then to say, oh, Senator, God know I love Senator, but to me, a subcommittee of the diaspora, why weren't they considered? No,
Listen
look.
to me. But remember what you're gonna say. The only time the two political parties, and I want to apologize for nothing. I can get Dr. Rupert Francis on my program, and he can verify this. I can get Wilfred Rattigan, Herb Nelson Jr., and other people. The only time the two political parties know the diaspora is when election time come around. Only when election time come around, they know the diaspora.
But when you say that, Jeffrey, it against the backdrop that people have given away their power, because the diaspora has a certain amount of leverage that they could leverage. But again, it's because we go so divided, because a lot of the diaspora seem to be split right down the middle. You have strong views for the Jamaica Labour Party, who sees no wrong that this administration is doing. And you have those who are strong on the views that the PMP is the better of the two evil.
Nice.
And who gets left and crushed in the middle is Jamaica. But again, it's a call to a Jeffrey Tavares to, you have a listenership, and if we could break out in subgroups and then we work on policy document based on experience and your level of competence, and we start to have policy documents that will bring about the effectiveness of the change, and we start to go out there and advocate for people. We start to put up programs and run programs of transformation in communities where you're not just talking, but you're empowering the community by supporting ideas and creative social entrepreneur that is going to better the life of the people. Then that is, to me, is when you're going to become relevant. Because again, we talk can be another avenue for us to talk, but we do nothing. And it is when good men and women do absolutely nothing that this level of evil is so pervasive, and it will never go away. We need again, Jeffrey, to educate. We need to have what is called the youth leaders, redevelopment program, where we're educating people on the importance of what it is to have a civic responsibility, and then empowering those people to go back into their communities and to identify at least one social, one wealth creation project, one education program, whether through health or through the traditional learning, and supporting them in bringing this out, against the backdrop that we are creating a better space for people to live in that is not so hopeless, for wanting of a better word. So you have to do that. You have to teach the Jamaican people to become advocate again, looking at what is happening now, saying what it is that needs to change, what they would like to see change, and giving a timeline to it that them know that if it don't happen within those timelines, the next time the election come around, you have to definitely vote out a brother there, because him can't fulfill the mandate. Look, politicians don't have a job description, you know. I don't think MPs have a job description, and I don't think councillors have a job description. So if you don't have a job description, yeah, what you have to do? But somebody in the chat talk about term limit. Yeah, man, you must have term limit in this new constitution. You must have fixed election date that can be changed. It has to be changed through referendum by the people of Jamaica. But you must also have social protection of the beaches that you're trying to give to your private friend them. You must identify them and name them and share them. And this is when you have to move away from your political appetite for one of the two political parties and look at Jamaica on a whole, and look if we're better off when we tie ourselves to one of the two diatribes. You have to have governance, but you should ask for people, as the senator said, who will put country above gain.
And you know something to Luke, as we're going to wrap up now. If we had a country where our debt wasn't $2 trillion and we have to use another $2 trillion to service the debt, and over the whole coronavirus pandemic, the Bank of Jamaica spent $1 billion to keep the Jamaican dollar afloat. If we had a country where we didn't have a $2 trillion debt, we still have our airline, we still have our backside being run by us, and all those companies that they sold out, you think Jamaicans will be running away to go to other countries and to go to the modern day slavery of the farm work program in Canada? Today, I had live on this channel Jamaicans in Canada demonstrating on the farm work program. You have Canadian citizens who is backing up the Jamaicans by saying what the Minister of Labour and Social Security said the other day. It's a blatant lie. It's a lie from the pit of hell. And if we have our people where our same government send them away into modern day slavery, and these are the same people who want to draft a new constitution for us, is there something fundamentally wrong somewhere?
But Jeffrey, that's what I'm saying. This is why I was advocating why it is that the committee was selected, and you select just this group of people without putting it out there for people to submit the names from every aspect of the Jamaican landscape, to both locally and internationally, who could if you take Rwanda, for instance, who went through genocide, and you look at their economy, it is doing far better than the Jamaican economy. How could you send a team of people that the Canadian farmers would have been aware of that they were coming? Is that the best method of saying that you are going there to protect the quality of lifestyle and work conditions for your people? Why would you send your team and announce their arrival? Why didn't you send them very covertly? Because there were particular farms that were identified in what was being said out there, and you send your team covertly, and then upon arrival you don't give them any time to change anything, just to say the inhumane. And this happens because government believe that they're doing good for the people, and them give them these farmer ticket is going to benefit them and their family, and by extension the community. So again, it is always people who have really no ties to Jamaica that has been fighting for this country vigorously. And this is where we have to applaud people like yourself and others. Tonight I was saying to Mr. Rattigan, I wish for him to desist from taking something as serious as setting the record straight to get into these talking points between him and Mr. Lonesome about Miss Johnson Smith not sleeping at night. Irrelevant. The relevancy of the day is that you, a private citizen of this country, now living in the United States with a wealth of 30 years experience and having a law degree, have done something that have never been seen before. We have never seen a private citizen suing a government minister and saying, you are accountable to the people of Jamaica. And this is where you have possibly break the law, and therefore you might have to diminish office if there are no criminal charges to it. I don't want to get into that Andre Stevenson and Wayne Lonesome tearing down of your people just to try to repair what we need to repair. What I need for you to do is stick to the facts and then do what is right. Put one foot forward, because you are creating a new paradigm shift for young Jamaicans who are going to be witnessing this and saying, could this be possible? Is it possible that the big man them can get shut down? And you're going to do it by using the law. You are creating, and that is what needs to be entrenched in the Constitution, that any citizen of Jamaica who have the mettle or the fortitude of testicular, who wants to stand up to the government by using the system of constitution and its reforms can do so by making your government become more accountable to the people. There are those who disagree with me that believe that it has to descend into a bloodshed because those who hold the power now and enjoy the wealth of this country are not going to give it up overnight. But look, one man, one vote, same man, same vote. We have to empower the people to think beyond the political diatribe and to start thinking about the individual well-being and that of their fellow men, and asking all of us to be stirred to respond to the duty of ensuring that the people who hold office, and we too as citizens, must always reflect the best self that we can to ensure that the value that is being added is the one that we want to see. So I can't be calling for an end to corruption, but in my private space, I live off corruption. Right now, Jamaica biggest industry that pays almost everybody from every walk of life is crime, and that is why you don't see outcry. Is only when, because I was down at the hospital and the following day, I only heard of one man. 3 men died that night. And then the following day, 3 people died in the community. And there is going to be more bloodletting. And then somebody sent me something on Facebook of a young lady calling out a guy in California who is funding the whole upheaval that we're seeing. Actually put up in face and everything, and said that he is funding it and him now get away with it. You know, and you have to say to yourself, then people can there at Jamaica and say how hard it is, and really make a man pay them $2 for kill them own black people. When will we get away from this mindset and call in the FBI and send them for this money to make him go face the stiff penalty of the law?
Listen to me, Lou. The government of the day is afraid to call in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They're afraid of what the Bureau of Investigation will end up finding what is going on in this country. They're afraid to call them in because they're going to find paper trail of SSL, paper trail of St. Lucia, paper trail of bank in Mexico, paper trail of so many things.
And Jeffrey, this is where I'm going to say, Jeffrey, if we know that there are those situations out there, Mayor said the Prime Minister, I hear people banter it and it is alleged. And let me say that because you see me, I am aware what the Darrell Vaz and the James Roberts and the people from both sides of the political party are capable of. They will stalk you, they will find out what you own, and then you will find, so tomorrow morning, Luke George or half of the $2 trillion were owed to the debtors. Because I know them they will try to falsify, they will impugn your character and then try to falsify. And I told you a story of, I saw that in my own experience. Hence, I no longer trust the establishments because I know what happened to ordinary people in there every day. But if we can uncover some of the illegal activity of government and government minister, and not only government, private sector, church leader, civil society leader, social services leader, everybody, because one of the things I don't want this program to sound like that we just come for beat up politicians, like they are the most corrupt in the country. 1% of this country holds the country's wealth and is one of the most evilest set of people in this country. They get away with almost everything. And as you hear the senator stated, them go to prison, go get TV, them get telephone use, them get conjugal visit, them get them ganja, because the liquor prison warder, the prison correctional officer, him own a liquor house at Portmore, and for make up him mortgage, this is a big food. This is a big food for him, you know. So it is against that backdrop that if we're going to go for one, we should go for all, because until we have restored some integrity in the minds of the Jamaican population, especially the so-called unattached youth that we like to talk. Them not unattached enough. They are fully aware, Jeffrey. You know what they're doing? They are revolting against corruption. Them know them lie and them no one have nothing to do with them. And instead, when we did, they criticize them, say them out there, rub out them and miggle. We should be glad that they're doing that, because let me tell you, if it's civil disobedience, if a civil disobedience is called by one of them brand name DJ there tomorrow morning, a Mavado, a Vibes Cartel, them young people that will rise up against the state. You must remember that they sacrificially went to Tivoli knowing that they couldn't fully beat the state, but they were willing to try to tell them, bring it to us and we'll bring the fight to you. It's sad that they weren't prepared for the fight, and state terrorism took place at Tivoli Garden. The people did not get compensation, but the state once again demonstrate how it will use its power. And that is why Rattigan did that whole exercise of that mass recruiting of young people who were brought up to JDF. Hundreds of young men and women. And women, there was a story of a lactated mother who just wanted to go home and she had to sue camp. I'm not sure if she had won the case. But in this new dispensation where we talk about the white man and his oppression, if you have people up there are willing to serve them country and them need for God do, you give them time off until them can come back to active service. You don't pressure a woman because she's a woman and she chooses to go have a baby. The nation is better off for its human capital once you create the balance in which people can work, earn, and raise them family. You should oppress them. And a lot of times when you hear the story of oppression coming out of these institutions of government where women have to continue to drop them drawers to gain favor or promotion, it is incomprehensible and it is shameful. But let me tell you, again, Jamaica, we have to ignite a fire in the Jamaican people not to accept this low standard of performance from the widest cross-section of government entity. And we have to ignite a fire in the people to stand up and say enough is enough. Not time come, enough is enough.
But you know something, Luke George, when we sit down in this country and you look on the Constitution Reform Board and you have a Rattigan on the Constitution Reform Board, and Rattigan cannot tell the people of this country who ordered 100 soldiers to go up to Kirkland Heights and assassinated a Jamaican citizen in Jamaican style, Keith Clark. Until now, he can't tell the people of this country, and it's him they have as deputy chairman of the Constitution Reform Board. And the Labour Party can't tell the people of this country how many Jamaicans were killed and dumped in Mapen Cemetery during the whole Tivoli Garden incursion.
And look,
and those are the people we have in this country going to formulate a new constitution for us.
Yeah, and look, Jeffrey Tavares. Kenisha Ellis have a young man lying in the hospital who needs to raise $1 million. Soldiers hit him off his bike, and the mother is struggling to come up with $1 million to buy the pin. To buy the pin, I can ask her. To buy the pin to put in her son, both our son legs. He may never walk again.
And nothing comes out of it.
And I can tell you, 2 young men were beaten 3 years ago down at Studley Park Road by soldiers. And I took them up to the camp and sat there for 4 hours. A report was taken and I checked with them almost every 3 months. Have you heard from camp? Nothing. Nothing. came out of that. I was draped by a soldier and a gun pointed in my face. And I wrote an extensive report to the camp, to Rocky Mead. Nothing comes out of that. There are people in this country who believe that they are born privileged, and more so than others, who believe that they're, by virtue of their criminal activities and behavior, will never be touched because they are anointed and appointed by the so-called powers at be. Andrew Holness don't care about the perception of Jamaicans who are dissatisfied by Mr. Mead. He doesn't. And he will probably say, like Philip Paulwell, when PJ talked about youthful exuberance. But if you really were accountable to the people, could a young man be lying in the hospital where a mother struggling to borrow money to buy pins for an operation that he needs because of the condition that he's in? Would you be happy when a woman said that she has been on a waiting list at KPH for 5 years and have bought several medication and can show the medication that she have bought and have never been given a date for that eye surgery, and every time she's seen in the clinic, they basically tell her that the medication that was prescribed is not necessary? You think if this was a country that put people at the center and the core of its development, you would have that, and you have somebody there who is the chief executive officer at KPH, and that woman is suffering. I was in the records office when she came in there crying, and you want me to tell you something? This lady is a disabled person because she only has 1 foot, right? So don't believe that anything is going to change. And as Senator rightfully said, it's because the whole we sit down and we tell, we say, we have the conversation, you know. We chat on the back veranda, we talk behind them, and we don't name them and shame them. And the few of us who do it, tell everybody, oh look, George, a troublemaker, get him out of here. All him do. A woman once came to a community and tell the community gunman them, say, no. Don White from Social Development, Jamaica Social Development, tell the gunmen that I was a hindrance to them, and the best thing would be for them to do something to me, that I would shut up, because nobody likes me in the development world. So, Jeffrey, this standing up for what you believe is right is not something that the faint of heart can come to just so, because as me tell them all the while, me say, make sure if you not come for me, just take me out of the house and go do it on the one. But leave my family them out there, because them beg me every day for stop talk. Them beg me every day for stop talk. So look, it's not easy to change that we want to see. And this is why you find that the young people believe that the only way you're going to get the change that you want. When you're talking to young men, I'm never going to say to them that I subscribe to the view that you must turn the gun on politicians. I'm not for state anarchy. I believe that you change things by changing the community and how you see yourself as a voter. But there is real talk out there, Jeffrey, among people that has been disadvantaged by the security force and the government, that them should turn them gun on politicians. So you see, now that you see them start with the police, they are building up this momentum to take it to the parliament. Me and one young man said the other day, the only thing I live for right now, I have to strap myself with some bomb and try to pass the police boy them for reaching a parliament. That is what your people are saying. That is what your people are saying. We don't feel.
You know something, look, George. We sit here, and because I have gotten, listen to me, I had also just throw away a number I had. I couldn't take no more calls anymore. It was so depressing. And what you're saying is the truth. People are getting fed up of the Jamaican government. They're getting fed up of the security forces, how the security forces treat them. And that begs to ask the question, is the Prime Minister planning something why he's spending billions and billions of dollars on the Jamaica Defense Force? Is there something that we don't know?
It is to test their power because they realize that there is going to be an insurrection like we have never seen. And it is going to come from some very ordinary people that we are not expecting it from. But the people have been suppressed for so long, and the things that they have been subjected to, it is troubling to them. There is no stability for their families. Look, which prime minister can really talk about the corner shop people them is helping the spread of COVID? And at the same time, and you create the people them have to go corner shop because them not have market and supermarket money. It is a two-tier government, right?
But look, him same one
right?
come from a area where corner shop is. Him same one come from there.
And that is why I hate anybody who tell me that them love the poor. Because if you want to be rich, you just continue to milk the very weak and vulnerable in your society. This prime minister has not created another micro care center. This prime minister, like the successful one, never them just start to work at a second children hospital, but have no facility for parents to support their children. Because this nursing staff and the doctors and the support staff at some of these places, them need to go home. They are draconian monsters. Them need to go home. Try to make a report about my niece, who is now 8-year-old, almost lose her foot at the children's hospital, and she had lived with the scar Wilfred Rattigan. I'm going to find you the picture of how she was treated, and all the Southeast Regional Authority came and do was to pay us platitude and more platitude and more platitude. My friend, well, I don't know, a friend of mine, Oscar Darby, was there with me one Sunday when I visited my niece at Children's Hospital. And we saw that they were using 2 chemicals on the ward, and we were telling them of the United Nations procedure, policy on not using 2 chemicals because with chemicals it build up a sort of it itself build a sort of bacteria, and them tell us to have good and proper. And he had to leave. A lieutenant colonel who is retired from the Jamaica Defense Force had to say, boy, our country has gone to the dogs when people are put in position, but they will not do what is right for the people of Jamaica. But on that note, Jeffrey Tavares, I really have to go. I am trying to raise money for assisting some school with some equipment. They need television set, they need computers, they need multimedia projectors. The children need more sensitive books that will include their emotion intelligence. And I am trying to meet with a few of my friends who I'm trying to convince them to see us paying careful attention to the education system to ensure that both students and teachers have enough resources. If anybody wants to make a contribution, they can reach out to you. I can give them the name of the school to make sure that it's fully transparent. They don't have to all bring it down from the United States if we can source it here so that it is in the hands. And these are, my focus is on early childhood school. I am working with Grace Hibbert, His Majesty Basic School, St. Simon Basic School, and Tarranton Early Childhood Institution. I'm spending the better part of this year trying to upgrade those facilities, and I also need people who are in education to help me to help with the transformation of these schools so we can tackle the challenge of learning and the different learning challenges for our children. So if you have well-thinking people on here who are not just prepared to listen to conversation but want to get involved, my number is 842-4725. I am willing to speak with anybody. Their donations will go directly to the suppliers, and we will install the equipment and
What's your
give
number
a.
again, Luke George?
It's what is it? 1-876-842-4725, or 1-876-772-1753. So if there's anybody who wants to partner with those initiatives, I want to install a smoke detector. The schools need to have, the fire department have to put in the extinguishers, and they're like $50,000. So schools are struggling. Early childhood schools are really struggling because the teachers are poorly paid, but they are expected to turn out the next set of Einstein. I don't know how they do it. They get $36,000 from the government of Jamaica monthly, and if they don't have a supporting, like one school that I know have a supporting, that they get support from the church, by the church taking the fees and giving them $30,000. So an early childhood teacher gets $36,000. After tax, they come down to $58,000. They're expected to have a police record and a medical certificate. They're expected to do their level 3, and they're not given full support. The permanent secretary and the JTA president pay homage to them recently when they talked about how badly underpaid. Now, if this is the fundamental part of establishing a child's learning and they are treated so poorly, what says the rest of us? So I can give the wish list. I can put out the wish list there. We want to install monitors, we want to upgrade the play area that they play on, because some of the schools, the children are playing on the raw asphalt.
Have you all start like a what do I call it now? Not a telethon,
a GoFundMe?
Yes.
Look, I'm not gonna prostitute myself in that arena. I'm sorry. If there are well-thinking Jamaicans, I'm not going to do that. I can identify the areas, I can tell you what the needs are, and if the people on this program, I am not going to do that. Honestly, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this with dignity. Once upon a time, at the one cocoa full basket, at the same set of people then where I listen to you, everybody can keep a old-fashioned potluck lunch and charge everybody $100, invite 10 people, and we can do what we need to do. Me can't do that, Mr. Tavares. Right now, I am about action. Me don't know how long Master God have me a find now. Because some days me feel like me not gonna make it. You know? Me just feel like I've had enough. Some days me want to run away.
You know, Luke, it's not you alone. Today, when I did the live broadcast from Canada today, I felt like this is it for me. I felt like you know what? I think I should just forget about a YouTube channel, forget about a Jam Talk Vibes Radio, and just live until the Lord call me home. I am hurting deep down to see where the country that I grew up in, the country that I love, it is just going down a slippery slope. And all I can hear people talk about, go ahead, in my Tavares, in my labor right. I'll go ahead. In my George Cook, in my PNP. I am nothing, and George is nothing. We're Jamaicans.
Right. Look,
and
Jeffrey, them can't talk. Them can't talk because I feel them out, and people, opinions for me are a dime a dozen. My granny always say, when you go to church and you hear pastor talk foolishness, treat it like a piece of meat. Eat what is substantive for the body and spit out the bone. There was a man who died, muted, and the man was both muted and deaf. And July here would have been 1 year since he would have died, and they can't bury him. They don't even have history of where he come from or who he belonged to, because he had turned up into a particular inner city community and just resided with a lady there who she told a few people that it was her godson from rural parish, no family. And it took the kind-hearted generosity of a few people. And when I wrote to corporate Jamaica, one man called me and asked me if somebody can dead under pan ice for so long. So you're so far removed from, and look, his funeral was only 180,000. I wrote to the ministry, they gave 30,000. I had to write them back and pleaded with them that this man was one of the people, one of the underserved people in this country. There's another elderly lady that I happened to buck up on her just by driving past a gate. And when I come out and the stench that hit me, and when I realized that could have been my grandmother, I had to turn back, roll up my sleeve and take one hose outside to the laughter of the people and wash off the lady. And all people, they were taking pictures. Nobody would help me. I go buy my soap, roll up my... So look, them can't talk till God come. That is one of many stories where we can tell you. Jeffrey Tavares. So I'm not big pan corporate Jamaica, because if it's not sexy enough, if people not go now pan live and go say, Mr. Wellness, me have one piece, me have one shop, I'm like, me want some money, and him go give them 150,000. You can't give somebody 150,000 without training. When hungry lick them and them have to choose between this and that, what am I gonna do? Me am the 150,000, and then they say, oh, Jamaica, they what at least they what the and I saw it go, Papa. And I saw we must be practical in meeting the needs of our people. And this is why constitution reform must reform it, that even the NIS program, through the social pension that they're offering, our people must be practical to the living condition of people. Look, people in the United States know what I'm talking about. In the COVID-19, when they realized that we could get supplies, some basic needs, and me hear people are calling and I said, not even sanitary pads they were able to get. All I want to say, they don't really care about us, because then you could have more, you can mobilize your citizens to start looking at building or making sanitary pads that are less expensive. I'll give you another scenario. Jamaica said them are out, they are banning the use of plastic bags. Why didn't you tell the women in communities to become industrious and take the old clothes that we have, wash them properly, sew them together and make bags that can be used, and people could buy those bags and you support an industry like that? Why you don't put your people first by coming up with creative initiatives like those that a woman could sew 10 bags and get one $10,000 a week versus waiting on the PART program, which they get $8,000 for their children every 2 months. You can't. You have to lift your people out of poverty. You have to lift your people out of poverty. Douglas Allen said, what? The floor of $43 million, or the floor of the floor. I can't see that screen I too look up. But yeah.
$43 million for the Commonwealth Secretary General campaign. And
okay.
Cares zero about the hunger and stress of poor people, of the poor Jamaicans.
As I tell you that I was at the KPH hospital after suffering a mild heart attack at 48 years old, working night and day, can't get a rest. See what me I do, yeah? Registration of people who don't have birth certificate, late registration, a process that they charge you $12,000 for a all island search that renders most of the time it come back, and then you have to now go through the registration process. Them give the people them the document. I have several of those that I'm going through because people have gone through the process and they don't have any proper civic document. Jeffrey, it is a real struggle. I'm hoping that people will open up their eyes to what I invite every Jamaican to go back into their own communities. And once again, just sit down as a servant leader and ask not necessarily what you can do for the broader problem, but start by taking on just the issues at your community and seeing how we can work. And we can come up with a national work plan that what we do in one community through the PLA learning, where we go and we talk to people, and people basically can tell you what the problems are, and we bring the technocrats and the bureaucrats to support them and to get their community up and running. It is possible, Jeffrey. If not now, when? If not us, then who? I don't want to talk about this Jamaica land broken. It is broken, and in many regards, a society that has several problems. But one of the things I believe, it's always going to be promising, and it is always hopeful. And I believe one day we will get the resolve that we're working for, if each of us could just make the commitment that we love country above personal gain, and to do our part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. But it's 10:22. I've had those people waiting from 8 o'clock. I from 8 o'clock, and it's unfair to them. I expressed to them that the Tavares show is there, and I had to give you some time. So me I go out there, go see if me can get them some young bright people for join me in helping with early childhood education and supporting early childhood institution.
Thank you very much for coming on, my friend.
Okay.
Thank you. God bless. And on that note, this is where we say so long from here. In the words of the late John F. Kennedy Jr., John F. Kennedy rather, not Jr., John F. Kennedy. Well, John F. Kennedy Jr., yes. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. My fellow Jamaicans, the struggle is real. My fellow Jamaicans, Jamaica needs help. She's crying. Our nation is crying out for help. Get involved in formulating our new constitution. Get involved in constitutional reform. Get involved. Don't put away. Don't say, get involved. Because at the end of the day, it will affect us. At the end of the day, it will affect our children. Let it be said in years to come that a Jeffrey Tavares, a Douglas Allen, a Enan Cook was a part of the formulation of a new constitution for this great beloved country of ours. We are living in serious times. We can't blame politicians on a whole. We must blame ourselves, because we sit down and allow them to do what they feel like to do. We sit down and allow them to sell this country out bit by bit, callous hand by callous hand, brick by brick, block by block, steel by steel. We allow them to do it. We didn't do a damn thing about it. We sit down and allow them to do it. But I can feel something brewing in there. That the Jamaican people are going to rise up and stand up for what we believe in. A nation that was fought for by our forefathers. Nanny of the Maroon, Paul Bogle, Sam Sharp, George William Garden, Marcus Garvey, Michael Norman Manley, James McLean Thompson. Those are the people and others who fought for this country, for us to be here. So I'm saying this tonight, my fellow Jamaicans, please. Do not sit down idly by and allow a favorite few to draft a new constitution. Let us get involved, because we need a constitution of the people, for the people, and by the people. Not a constitution of the people, of the affluence of society, but a constitution that can help the poor class of our citizens. No more must we stand by and allow these people to do what they feel like to do. Jamaicans are sent away to Canada in modern day slavery. And we have a Minister of Labor and Social Security saying that nothing is wrong. Jamaicans come back home from farm work, and who cannot see is crippled, who not crippled and have no sex drive for their partners. And yet the Minister of Labor and Social Security, Carl Samuda, said that he sent a fact-finding, now they want to call it, and they come back and said nothing is wrong, everything is honky-donkey and holy. Is that the people we want to govern this country? Those are the people who want to help to form a new constitution in this country? Who don't love the people of this country? All they can say, oh, Papa love the poor, Mama love the poor, and deep down they don't love us. They want to keep us down. My fellow Jamaicans, please, let us come together as a people and fight for this rock. And stop saying that we are PNP and JLP. Put Jamaica first. Put this piece of rock first. Jamaica is crying out for help. Whether we like it, yes or no. Our nation is bleeding from within. And the time has come for us to rally around a single cause and a single purpose. And the time to rally around a single cause and a single purpose is now. Now is the time, my fellow Jamaicans. Now is the time for you to stand up and rise up in this blessed country of ours. Now is the time to demand the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Now is the time. Now is the time for all of us in this blessed country of ours to stand up and rally round. Have a say in the drafting of your new constitution. Have a say. Don't let them throw anything down our throat. Do not allow them to throw anything down our throat. But let us stand up, you mighty race. Stand up for what you believe in and stand for Jamaica. That's what we need to do. Stand for this country of ours. For all those cares have been our concern. For all those cares has been our concern. The work goes on, the cause endure, and the hope for a better Jamaica shall never die. The dream for a country of ours, the dream for a peaceful Jamaica, the dream for a Jamaica that everybody can live and work in will never die if we stand up for this country. And my final word to you all tonight, may God bless you. May God bless Jamaica land we love. And thank you all for coming on. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Have a good night. Remember to pray to God before you go to your bed tonight. And pray for Jamaica land we love. Because our national anthem said, Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Have a good night, everyone. May God bless you. May God bless this island home of ours, Jamaica land we love.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, Don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people. Make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.
Do you need graphic design services? Or maybe you need branding for your business? How about multimedia production services? Contact Browns Media and Graphics at 876-877-1870. Browns Media and Graphics, developing your ideas, creating your style.